This is going from worst to best. These are managers from 2013 to 2024. We're starting off with the worst one, Julian Lopetegui. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I'm saying his time at Real Madrid was terrible. Because when he joined the club, when Florentino Perez signed him and brought him into, basically appointed him as the coach of Real Madrid, he was set to replace the great Zinedine Zidane, who had won a three-peat. So for Lopetegui to replicate that, which Perez brought him in to replicate that, first of all, the signings he brought in, which we can't actually blame him for signings because we know Perez is one of the main people when it comes to signings. If you look at that summer, we brought in Mariano Diaz and a whole bunch of players who did not affect the team that much. But I mean, his start to the season was terrible. A Super Cup match against Atletico Madrid, losing 4-2 in a Super Cup, which Real Madrid never lose Super Cups. That just became a theme throughout the season. As time went on, he kept losing big games and important games. The only trophy he won with Real Madrid was the FIFA Club World Cup, which that is being played against teams that are not on the level of even the smallest European clubs. So Lopetegui failed. He was a former coach of Spain, in which he had to leave that job for Real Madrid. And then he got sacked in the middle of the season after Real Madrid had come from one of the worst defeats to Barcelona. He got sacked. And then that brings us to the next coach on this list, Santiago Solari. So Solari was a great player for Real Madrid. Huge respect to him, a legend of the game. And he still plays a big part of Real Madrid in the background. And why I place him above Lopetegui is due to Solari not being able to really change that much. He didn't have the power to sign players. And the only player we brought in January was Brahim Diaz, which was a prospect and he was not that experienced. So Solari was set up for failure. And I don't blame him for how bad the team was playing because they were playing trash from the start of the season. However, we still suffered embarrassing losses. 3-0 to Barcelona out of the Copa del Rey. 4-1 to Ajax at the Santiago Bernabeu. And let me tell you, that was a bad season. And both of those coaches are at the worst of this list. The next one, Rafa Benitez. So what I say is less bad than him. He did have a summer in which he signed players who he wanted to sign, such as Lucas Vazquez, Mateo Kovacic, Cheryshev. However, he did make one of the biggest mistakes I've ever seen a coach do. He played Cheryshev in a Copa del Rey match in which Cheryshev in the previous season was suspended for Copa del Rey and he could not play in the next fixture. In which Cheryshev was playing for Villarreal, got suspended. He was not set to play that match. Benitez didn't know this. He played him in the match against Cadiz and we won the game. However, got eliminated after the match because we weren't even supposed to be fielding Cheryshev and therefore it was against the rules. Therefore Real Madrid got disqualified. Not to mention his bad tactics, and I've heard a lot of reports even players didn't like his tactics, they didn't like him. You can't coach big players like small players, and that was what he was trying to do. You can't do that. You can't treat Ronaldo like he's Balotelli. You can't treat Modric like he's Joe Allen. You can't do that. That's just you setting the team up for failure. And the thing is, the team was so organized. He organized who plays in which position, what squad numbers. I remember that team vividly. The team was so organized. He was a good coach, it's just he had bad performances. He wasn't the worst coach. He got sacked after the matches against Barcelona and Sevilla, which he lost 4-0 to Barcelona at the Bernabeu, and then lost 3-2 to Sevilla at the Sanchez Pizjuan, and therefore Benitez got sacked. A bit harsh, but it was the right decision. Okay, so now it's top 3. Top 3, I'm going with Jose Mourinho. So, hold up. Don't go on and say, oh, Mourinho is the best, he's the greatest. Definitely, greatest coach of all time. But in his time at Real Madrid, he had a world-class squad. And arguably he should have won the Champions League. Of course, we got knocked out by Bayern Munich. Which, I mean, that is unfortunate. But if you look at his track record, when he came in 2011 or 2010, one of those 2 years, he came in, changed the philosophy, and made the team a more competitive team towards Barcelona, in which the previous years we were getting wiped the floor with. The team was just so disorganized. He came in, brought in his philosophy, brought in his players, like the Sami Khederas, the Mesut Ozils, the Ricardo Cavallos, in which we actually competed for once with Barca. Even though they did beat us 5-0, in which one of the most iconic losses of Real Madrid. But I excuse that, because we were still in the building stages. And arguably, what he did for the club back in 2011 straight to 2013, it was the building blocks for what the team became in 2018 and forward. And Mourinho installed a great philosophy. He brought in the fighting mentality. He handled the egos very well, and he used them very well. He changed his tactics on multiple occasions, and he adapted, and he ended up winning the Copa del Rey and La Liga. And then that brings us to number 2. This is where the controversial opinions begin. For me, number 2 is Carlo Ancelotti. Okay, so before you say, oh, I'm stupid for saying that, I'm looking at accomplishments. I know Ancelotti is the current coach and he's doing a fantastic job, but in overall achievements, he won 2 Champions Leagues with Real Madrid, he won 2 Copa del Reys, and he only won 1 La Liga trophy. But overall, he was a great coach and still is a great coach to this day. He even got called washed up after Real Madrid, which is insane. Then returned, and then he just wiped out all the washed up allegations. And he's still one of the greatest coaches to this day. And as I mentioned with Mourinho, the adaptation. Ancelotti is the master of adapting. And I can speak about this season. When he changed formation, it was a risky situation. There was no proof that this would work. And in the beginning, in pre-season, when he changed the formation to diamond, it looked like it wasn't working that well. The team looked sloppy. But if you look at the team now, this team is playing better football than they did in the previous season. So good on Ancelotti, and I'm putting him number 2 only because number 1 is Zinedine Zidane. So with Zidane, he did not win any Copa del Rey trophies, but he did win 3 UCLs in a row, back to back. That's why I'm putting him there. He is just insane. Not to mention 2 La Liga trophies, and overall bringing the best out of almost each player that was in the squad. And I'm talking about both stints, because when he came from 2015 and left in 2018, the team was different. When he came in, he had to pick up the pieces from Rafa Benitez. In his first game, we were already amazing. Zidane overall changed the team for the better, and that's why I place him number 1. So you can argue with that, and I don't blame you. You might even have a better opinion than me, but that's just my opinion. And if you disagree, leave it in the comments, and I would love to know what you have to say. But if you enjoyed, smash a like, subscribe.